Hello, everyone. Sherry Chris here with Lindsay Lastansky and a very special guest on the What Moves Her podcast today. About a year and a half ago, he literally burst onto the scene, and I am not exaggerating. Alex Vidal, who was an extremely successful executive with Coldwell Banker, took the reins of ERA and he's just left everyone in the dust. That is what I'll say. He's an athlete. He is very high energy. And Alex, I just respect you so much. Thank you for being with us today.
Well, thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Lindsay. I'm excited to be on the podcast. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Alex, I don't know how I feel still about seeing you in red, but I am super excited to see you in this position. I know that there's no better leader than you for ERA, so I'm super happy for you, and it's been really fun watching you.
Thanks, Lindsay. It's been a blast. Sherry left me a great company, and it's like two long lost brothers getting together. It's been a blast, or siblings, whatever you want to call it. It's been a lot of fun.
I love it. Well, all right, let's get into this. Obviously, women podcast, you're a man. Let's just elephant in the room, right? But we've had some great men on. And one of the questions that we always ask is, let's go back to the early years of baby Alex. Were there women throughout your life that really were just super integral in your development personally, professionally? Like, let's go back to your early days.
Yeah, so I was very, very blessed to obviously still have my mom in my life, but have both my grandmothers up until not too long ago, actually. So for a large chunk of my life, I had three of the most influential women I could have. And, I'm Cuban descent. So typical Cuban descent is, men don't show emotion. They're very hard. They're very driven. Where my mom actually taught me that you can be strong. You can be emotionally strong, professionally strong, but you can also have a soft side when it's needed. And I would say one of my superpowers is maybe empathy. And I don't know if that's, you can say that or not, but I'm going to say it. I do think that, I think I have a very high EQ, maybe not IQ, but EQ. And I didn't get that from my dad. I actually got that from my mom, who was a professional for many, many years, but was also a great mom. Tough love, but it was also that shoulder to cry on. And she was always the one I went to first when I needed advice. My grandmothers, what I'm going to say is my grandfather on my dad's side would often refer to her as like she was the foundation of the entire family, not my grandfather. Like she was the one going back to Cuba in the 60s that literally sold everything to bribe a judge to get both my uncle and my grandfather out of jail because they were political prisoners against Vidal Castro.
Wow.
It wasn't my grandfather. Like he couldn't do it. It was my grandmother.
She was a baddie.
She was a baddie.
Wow.
She absolutely
I like
was a baddie. So to kind of see that, and then my abuela to see that my mom's side, it was just like the most, oh man, I don't even know how to explain that grandmother on my mom's side. She was just like, I don't want to cry on this, but she was like a sweetheart, right? Like she was just the most endearing, sweetest person that you just knew you were safe when you were with her. And I always said, like in life, both for my kids and professionally, like, could I emulate those things? Could I be tough when needed? But can I also be that endearing person when needed as well? And so they were the ones that actually gave me that example. Like my dad taught me the hard line work, but it was then that showed me the balance that you can be hard but at the same time have that soft side.
As a mom of three boys, listening to you and knowing that I can instill that on my own three sons, it's incredibly valuable to me at this point in momhood. So thank you for sharing that.
It's so, I just love this because whenever we do have a man on, something so interesting comes out of the conversation. And what you just shared, I thought I was going to start crying. So that has, those traits have really stuck with you, Alex. And in our role as leaders in a public company, but really dealing with agents and franchisees every day, you do have a high level of emotional intelligence. And how do you use that today? Because, yes, thank you for the compliment. ERA was in great shape, but our jobs aren't easy. And you're the perfect person for the brand. But, give us some examples of how you use that.
Sure. Well, I think I'm the right person for the brand at the right time. right? Like you shepherded into an era where it was right before all the changes happened, right? And now there's like all these changes, and they want a practitioner that's in the field with them. And I don't think there are many people out there that maybe are as qualified for that as I am, because that's my passion and it's what I love to do, and I own it, and I know what I'm great at. I think ultimately I use it because they don't care what's that saying? Like, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And it was my mom and my grandmothers in my life that really taught me that when you care, you can essentially, do a lot of different things. And so the way I kind of used what I've learned in my earlier years and throughout my early on in my careers, if I can show them how much I care, then I can help them with what I know. And that kind of combination is what has allowed me to have the success that I have within ERA. More than I care, actually, it's shown more that I care more than what I actually know.
You care deeply, and that shows. One of the coolest things about being part of the Anywhere family to me is there's basically unlimited upward mobility, right? Like, we are so blessed that we have so many unique career paths because we're not just in one singular brand. You're a former Coldwell Banker Realty RVP. You're now president of ERA. So you saw that opportunity to look at Anywhere as a corporate lattice. It was a huge jump. One of the reasons Sue basically founded What Moves Her was to help people on their path to leadership. So talk about what it was like making that arguably huge jump from RVP to president. What were some of the conversations you were having with mentors? What were some of the things that really went into making this decision? Because it was a huge step, and it obviously worked out really well for you. But I would love to know about the thought and the process and kind of everything that went into that big moment in your career.
Sure. I would actually tell you the big moment wasn't making the jump from Coldwell Banker RVP to president of ERA. I would go one step further, or one step back, which was making the move from running the company in Florida to in Miami, and moving halfway across the country in the middle of the pandemic to come work for this public company. And the reason was, when I look back at that particular scenario, like people are like, oh, I'm happy where I'm at.
Yeah,
I was
I'm comfortable.
Yeah, like I know I was ecstatic. Like, I loved what I did. I loved who I did it for. I loved where I lived. Our kids loved where we lived, like all that stuff. But when I looked at where I wanted to be in my life a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, even though I was happy today, that company didn't play, or at that moment, that company did not play a role in where I wanted to be in my future. Where I wanted to be in my future was, I felt I had the chops to be able to run a company at a national level. Right. And I couldn't do it there. So I had to make the move to Coldwell Banker, become an RVP, to enter the Anywhere system, essentially.
That's interesting.
Knowing that there was like this plethora of opportunities if you deliver. And so we delivered, and ultimately became president of ERA. My mentor, interestingly enough, is an 84-year-old guy by the name of Emmett Logan, who, when he was like 16, was in the gangs of New Jersey. His parents thought he was going to get killed, so they told him he had to go to college. He went to college one day, dropped out, and was a paramilitary. He was afraid of heights. So what did he do? He enrolled as a paramilitary trooper in the Army. Okay. Came back. It's a fascinating story. He was homeless and an alcoholic. And you guys are like, oh, hold on. He was in gangs, alcoholic. But listen to this. He was washing dishes during the day and loading boxes for UPS at night, living in a homeless shelter. And he ended up, fast forward, he ended up running UPS, helping run UPS worldwide.
No
Wow,
way.
that's incredible. What a great, like, you couldn't
That's
have a
cool.
better mentor, really. You couldn't. And, I want to continue on this theme a bit, because one of the things that I tell people that I'm trying to help, and anyone who will ask, is that if you do an exceptional job at your current role, that helps pave the way for the future. And there are always people out there that are, they've got like 1 foot in and 1 foot out, looking for their next opportunity. But talk a little bit about that, because your mentor obviously did that, and you do it as well.
Sure. So my mentor always, focused on you have to manage 2 ways. You have to manage up and you have to manage down. And knowing, like, it's one thing to deliver for your customers, that may not always be in line with what maybe your bosses want. So making sure you communicate to both sides, and that you're accomplishing both goals and both objectives. Him and I kind of differed on the fact, he's kind of like, hey, don't tell anybody, do your thing, and people will notice. I think both of you know me pretty well. I'm not very quiet. And so I figured, I knew I was backing it up, but I also wanted to make sure people knew what I wanted. And coincidentally, when the Coldwell Banker role, the Coldwell Banker president role became available, I sat down with Liz, Sue, Angie, who else was there? Tanya. This was like in April of last year, right before you had retired from the president roles. And I said, I am going to become the next president of Coldwell Banker. Flat out told them. Well, then like a week later, news comes out, Sherry, that you decided to retire from being president of both brands. And I call Liz and I'm like, I'm going to be president of one of those brands. And Tanya as well, actually. And then it worked out to where, if you were to carve out or to describe a perfect president role, it was within ERA. And that proved to be very true to this day, because I don't think I've ever been happier in a professional role. I would not have had the guts to go to them and say, I am going to become a president, if it wasn't for the fact that I had delivered. So what I would tell people listening is make sure you're delivering, because if not, you're just a squeaky wheel that, it's like, why are you squeaking? But don't be afraid to tell people what you want. And I could even go behind that. Back when Ryan Gorman was with Coldwell Banker, I told Ryan Gorman I wanted to be the next Peter Sobek, who's the chief growth officer for Anywhere. And so, because I was delivering. So always deliver, number one, but don't be afraid to ask what you want, my opinion at least.
No, I think that's really important. I think a lot of people are keep your head down, do a good job, but they miss that advocating and actually like putting it out there. It's not like you're manifesting it, but really like verbally saying, this is what I want. I don't think people have maybe the training or the courage or both to do it. And it's something that's a really good tip. It's something that I know on my team we talk a lot about, is just like raise your hand. Just do it. So
what's the worst that can happen? Somebody says no? Okay.
Exactly. You are not just a president, but you're also a dad. You are also an Ironman, which is wild to me. That's incredible. Let's talk a little bit about balance. I think like for you, working out is your outlet for keeping your sanity and like your body healthy. And how do you make time to, there's that saying like you can have there's 5 things, like do 3, like you have family, work, faith, all those things. It seems like you are maybe a time lord. I don't know. It seems like you're kind of getting it all together. What's your approach to balance? How are you getting it all done? I know you're on the road a lot. So like, how are you making time for the other important things outside of work?
So a couple things. One, there is no such thing as balance.
Facts.
I think that goes out the window. The second thing I would tell you, my favorite word is no.
Okay.
And boundaries. And so being able to tell people no, like, so for example, when I'm on the road, I don't do events on Monday. I don't do night, because that's my travel day. I don't do night events. Events don't start until at least 9 a.m. to give me an opportunity to work out. So I set boundaries to be able to work around my schedule, because if not, people will take advantage and they'll load you up the entire day, the whole day. You're like, no.
Yeah.
Really don't watch TV. I just really good at time management. Or I'll make like if I want to work out and for whatever reason, if something going on, I'll bring my kids with me to work out and spend the time with them doing that. There's no such thing as balance. I don't have a lot of things. Like I don't know if I could turn this camera on or you're going to see it, but I have a vision board, and on that vision board, it's written. It's not pictures, so I'll have to sit there and try and decipher what I'm trying to accomplish. And if what I get presented with doesn't get me closer to what's on that board, I just say no.
I saw a guitar over there. I might make you pull it out and do a little ditty for us.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
I used to play a lot, and then I got into doing big triathlons and doing all that other. So.
Well, let's talk about this Ironman. And
Sure.
Alex, you and I were on a stage recently where the person who was commentating said to me, you're more like a Burning Man, and Alex is an Iron Man. So
Little do they know I'm more like a Burning Man too. So.
I didn't know whether that was a compliment or not, but I'll take it as.
Oh, it's a compliment. Sure, you're the coolest. You know that.
Oh, God. Listen, Burning Man is one thing, but Iron Man is terrifying. Tell us how it was.
So how it is, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And so you try and not to look at this, monster of a race. And for those listening that don't know what an Ironman is, it's the longest triathlon you can do. It's a 2.4-mile swim, 112-mile bike, 26.2-mile run. Took me 13 hours and 19 minutes. So a couple things. One, you don't look at the entire thing because you'll get overwhelmed. And so how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So you just kind of take each discipline, each break, the things in your head that you have set up to attack them. And ultimately, what got me to sign up for the Ironman was I've always wanted to do one. And I was with a partner, my ex-wife, and I'm blunt, by the way, completely tell people the way it is. If they like it, great. If they don't, great. Wasn't very supportive. How much all this is going to take away from the family. You're going to wake up at 5 a.m. and you're going to wake me up and blah, 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 and all that stuff. So I never got to it. And then after I got divorced, I'm like, yeah, one day I'm going to do it. And what's interesting was it came as a result of speaking in front of a group. So I had all these goals on my vision board that I just, had showed everybody. And this was last year. Get promoted, sell my house, buy my new place, escape Alcatraz, which is another triathlon where you literally escape Alcatraz. And it was like, check, 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 check. And I didn't redo my goals. And come October, I was speaking to ERA Livermore in North Carolina. And professionally, I was crushing it. Personally, I was actually kind of like in a rut. And I remember one of the agents asking me, like, well, why do people fall off? Like, why do you think people lose motivation or fall off the wagon of motivation? And it was like at the perfect time. And I was like, well, that's because, people accomplish their goals and they enjoy it, but then they forget to reset and set new goals. And that was like my aha moment. I said, you know what? If I'm ever going to do an Ironman, it's going to be now. And I set my mind to it, and luckily I had a great team around me of friends and family that supported me throughout the journey and the day of the race. And it was a beatdown. It was absolutely brutal. I probably cried 3 times during the race.
Oh my God. So, wow. Like super emotional. I mean, it's grinding on your body, but mentally it's maybe equally or even worse.
Yeah, an Ironman is 5. A lot of people want to look at a triathlon as like through the 3 disciplines: the swim, bike, run. Most are, but as soon as I think once you get into the bigger distances like half Ironman and Ironman, it becomes 5 disciplines. It becomes swim, bike, run, nutrition for sure, and then the mental. You're on a bike for 6.5 hours, 6 hours, with no music.
I can't.
So that's there's no music during triathlons either. So
you're not allowed to have music. They won't allow it. Yeah.
Part of the mental toughness, I guess. All right. You mentioned nutrition, so I have to ask you. This may be a throwaway question to some, but as a foodie, I'm going to ask it. What is the first thing you eat after that is like your guilty splurge after an Ironman? Like, what is your I have been wanting to eat this. I need it.
Typically a burger and fries is my go-to after
that was my wedding.
Yeah.
We went to McDonald's I was like, we are going to McDonald's. We are getting a tray of food and we are going to have a night.
Yeah.
Well,
you know what's interesting is like people don't realize during not that this has anything to do with what moves her, but what you don't realize is the amount of calories you take in during a race, particularly not only calories, but sodium as well.
Oh, yeah.
And so you're like, I couldn't put my watch on for a week because I was just so bloated from,
wow.
I think I took in 5,000 milligrams of sodium or something like that. It was crazy.
Oh my God. And but you needed that. You needed it. Just continuing on health and wellness, you work out pretty well every day. Do you take supplements? What do you eat? Give us your kind of, this will be helpful to the audience.
Yeah. So I work out fasted every morning for sure. Cause I think that's just, even this morning I ran before this podcast cause it just clears your mind, clears the fog. I typically, after I work out, I have a protein shake or a smoothie. And then because I also lift as well, I eat a lot of protein and I eat a lot of carbs. Like pasta, rice are my best friend. Like people are afraid of carbs. I probably put down 200-300 grams of carbs a day. I'm not afraid of it. So I'm also 200 pounds. So I'm a little bit on the bigger side. Not really a big sweets guy. I don't drink during the week. Monday through Thursday, I don't drink. I don't care what's going on. That's my rule. The weekends I'll splurge a little, but weekends are usually my longer days. I think if you can get it right 80-85% of the time, you're allowed to splurge the other 15% of the time. But I don't work out necessarily to look a certain way. I work out for my mental sanity. I think, Lindsay, you refer to just the mental health of it. There's just something cathartic. I call it pavement therapy when I go run. It's just something I can figure out on the road always.
I love it. My husband wakes up every morning at 5, and I'm probably like a little bit annoyed about it, but I know that it's his. I
Don't
know
give
that
him
it's
a hard
his mental
time.
outlet, right? I'm like, you
Yes.
need mentally, you're a better person when you work out. So like, do what you need to do, and I will hopefully fall back asleep. And if I don't, at least I know that you're in a good mental state. So
Yeah,
I get that you have that.
Yeah.
One of the things when you step into a new leadership role, any level, is like surrounding yourself with the best of the best. When you got over to ERA, what were some of the kind of things you were looking in or for with the people you surrounded yourself? I think a lot of our listeners talk about being like stuck in the middle, right? And they're looking to get recognized by leadership and kind of, in that lift as you rise, go with people. So for people that are looking to be in that next level with leadership around them, what are some of the things that are really important to you and the people you surround yourself with?
So I look for confidence is my number one thing. I once heard from a boss that like, if I have to micromanage you, then one of us doesn't need to be here. And so I'm a firm believer in not micromanaging people, because if I have to micromanage you, then I have the wrong people on the bus. So I look for people that are not only confident, but are vocal in what they want to accomplish and can back up what they're trying to do. That's my number one thing. Like, if you got to believe in yourself, because how can I believe in you if you don't believe in yourself? And so luckily I have a great team in Frank and Leanne. Leanne handling all of everything that's the servicing, and our servicing team for ERA, Frank handling all the sales. They love what they do. They're great at it. They're confident about it. They have zero issues coming to me with some disagreeing with me and telling me that they disagree with me. I actually want them to, like, I don't want to just tell them how it is. And so, but like, if you were to go to the 30,000 foot level, that's a confidence thing. And being able to not be afraid to stand up for what you believe in. That to me is number one by far.
I love that. And you do have a fabulous team, and you've chosen well, like Frank in sales, and it's an A team, and
It is.
congratulations on that. And Alex, one final question as we wrap up. Give the listeners some words of wisdom for the future.
Words of wisdom. Well, if I were to look at both my vision, so I have two vision boards. Okay. One vision board is my personal vision board on one side of my TV. On the other side of my TV is the ERA vision board. And across both, I'm going to share with you the two quotes that I have on both. Across the personal one, it says, between disappointment and greatness is opportunity and choice. So you can be disappointed or you can be great. Between the two are the opportunities and the choices that you make every day. Over the ERA one, it says, be so good you can't be ignored. Kind of what we were talking about before. One thing is to be so good you can't be ignored, but then at the same time, don't be afraid to raise your hand and speak about what you want. I've always said at one point, I'm going to run anywhere. Like, that's my big goal. If Ryan was right here, I'd tell Ryan. I probably told Ryan that before. Who knows if it'll ever happen, but people are going to know it. For right now, though, don't worry, ERA. I'm not leaving. I love ERA. Like, it's my passion. Again, I don't think I've ever been happier in a role than I am right now.
Well, and where it shows, and everyone is so happy to have you as their leader, and I'm happy to know you as a colleague and a friend. So, Alex Vidal, thank you. Today was very inspiring, and I know we'll have a lot of listeners. It was our pleasure to have you on.
Oh, I'm grateful and honored for the opportunity. Thank you both.
Thanks, my friend.
Yep.